Guys, Fortnite OG's lore just got so much deeper today with a brand new discovery that makes one thing crystal clear. The Dark Voyager and the Last Reality's influence isn't just exclusive to our new reality, but may actually be infecting the OG mode at the same exact time. Guys, I really need you to listen up because Fortnite just did something absolutely massive, and I genuinely don't think people understand just how insane this is yet. Chapter 7 didn't just bring the storyline back, it straight up may have just merged with Fortnite OG. Like, we're watching two realities collide in real time, and one of the biggest memories in recent Fortnite lore is being laid out right in front of us at the beginning of this new chapter. And the craziest part is that Fortnite has kind of been teasing this for weeks, all the way back in the early seasons of Fortnite OG even, through the bunker, through the corruption, through the visitor, literally right under our noses. So today we're going to break down this giant new discovery as well as everything else. The visitor possibly escaping Fortnite OG, why OG is clearly happening alongside Chapter 7, the 7 being hunted, the brand new plan, the red cube, everything. This is one of the wildest, most important lore twists Fortnite has done ever, so buckle up. So let's just get one thing straight and actually give some context so we know exactly what we know so far. So the OG reality, I think it's easy to say, is not in the past 100% confirmed. Fortnite has essentially confirmed this because later on in Chapter 7, we're actually going to have the visitor reality unknown on the map, but we will talk about that later. He's going to show up on the Chapter 7 map as an NPC later this season. So we know that this isn't in the past. It's actually a reality going alongside the one that we're on. And that means that every corruption, every bunker message, every event inside of OG, none of that was just nostalgia. It was all real, and it was building toward what's happening right now in Chapter 7. It explains why Chapter 7 keeps referencing OG stuff, why the Dark Voyager is tied to OG corruption, and why Lynx is actually suddenly a major player again inside of Fortnite, albeit she is a remix. Fortnite is merging these two timelines together and showing us, hey, there is one person that's been behind all of this weird different stuff happening in OG all this time. And I'm telling you right now, you guys, this is only the beginning. If they're willing to do something like this, imagine what is coming next. First off, we need to take a little bit of a trip down memory lane. I know OG hasn't been out for a while and it's still going to be down for another about 7 or 8 days or something like that, but we need to talk about the bunker in that mode because now that we know OG and BR are colliding, the bunker messages finally make perfect sense. If you guys remember how it started way back in OG Season 5 with that message flashing something is wrong, we all thought it was just kind of like a cute little like Season 6 teaser or something like that, but it was actually telling us that something was wrong in terms of the red corruption on the map. Then it starts flashing colors like purple and white, basically hinting that the cube wasn't actually destroyed and showing us that it was actively changing once it melted into Loot Lake. That revealed and explained exactly why it turned purple at the beginning of Season 6 when it was red beforehand. Then, just most recently before OG shut down and before we went into Chapter 7, we got Titans. And everyone assumed that was hinting toward OG Season 7 and the Ice Monster or the Ice King, but we were actually very wrong. We couldn't have been more wrong. Because eventually it started flashing 0 hour, and now that we've seen the event, that was literally teasing that the red cube was going to be the one that defeats the Dark Presence. And just the fact that it was flashing 0 hour and Morse code inside of OG just by itself is evidence that OG and Chapter 7 are connected, but it's even more deeper now. The bunker wasn't just random, it was telling the entire OG storyline in real time. It was kind of like our narrator since it started flashing. And now looking back, it was hyping up a storyline twist that's connecting directly into Chapter 7 today, and they were telling us all the way back then that, hey, OG is going to be the reason we defeat the Dark Presence. And now here is where things get really crazy, you guys. That red cube that showed up from 0 hour, that was most likely the same red cube from Fortnite OG. And of course, we know if you saw my last video about OG being corrupted, go and watch that later on if you haven't watched it yet. But we saw that the red cube was inside of the 0 point in the in-between when we got the butterfly event, and that it was feeding off of all of these realities, actually infecting them, which we talked about later was a really big thing because if one reality gets corrupted, it could cause the end of the entire Omniverse. Now, there's a theory going around, and honestly, this one makes a lot of sense, that Jones, when he actually, I guess, spawned in or called in the red cube to help us out, that he didn't know anything about a red cube. He just tried to rift in the cube that he remembered from Chapter 1, and because OG was corrupted red, it just brought that version in. He may have unknowingly just saved the entire Omniverse as well as the OG reality. But it does explain why he didn't question the color. He didn't care, and I was kind of surprised to not see him say, like, why is it red or something like that. He just wanted something strong enough to wipe out the Dark Presence, and it obviously worked very well. But that opens up a massive question that I want to talk about. Is OG free now? Like, because if the red cube was the thing corrupting and looping that reality possibly, and now that it's gone, you know, it's not feeding off of all those other realities, what is going to happen next? And I'm not going to go super deep into this here. I have a full video coming up on OG's fate once OG is actually back in Season 7, but trust me, this is one of the biggest questions Fortnite has ever set up as well. Now we have to talk about one of the biggest things, and that is the Visitor. He's kind of the main character of the Fortnite OG mode because, yes, I did predict this back in OG Season 4 that the Visitor is actually going to be escaping Fortnite OG. Now, we talked about this loading screen in the last video, and this is the deep dive on it here. There's some theories that Lynx and Dark Voyager in this loading screen are actively working to track down the Visitor. And the theory was simple back in the day, that OG might not be a literal time machine, it might be a scripted simulation designed to keep the 7 contained. And now, with the Visitor seemingly escaping OG and them looking for him and landing maybe somewhere in Chapter 7's timeline, as we'll see later on down the season, that theory suddenly makes way too much sense. We're going to see him on the Chapter 7 map, and the Dark Voyager is going to know, like, oh my gosh, the Visitor actually escaped the simulation that the last reality made for him. We absolutely need to find this guy because he is our biggest threat. If you think about it, guys, the Order eventually escaped from whatever universe she was in. The Visitor got out. They were the ones experimenting with rifts, and those corrupted zones Dark Voyager placed around OG, you know, all that corrupted stuff, the butterfly, the rift, the cube, of course, could have been the reason the Visitor slipped through the cracks eventually when he did the rocket event. Now, of course, guys, I'm only assuming that the Dark Voyager was the one to actually administer this corruption, because in this loading scene right here, and he's going to have a style later on in the bonus rewards, which is red. And I assume if he's kind of like the master of all of these cubes, he would definitely have the ability to corrupt something from a completely other reality. I think it makes the most sense that he was the one behind it the whole time, which confirms my theory that it was the last reality because the Dark Voyager is in a sector of the last reality as well. Now, does this confirm the OG simulation theory? Not necessarily, not exactly, because it all really depends on whether OG has the full 0 point during the unvaulting event. If it does, the simulation theory kind of falls apart, but if it doesn't, it opens up a ton of possibilities, because as we know, the 0 point was split into shards during the Big Bang, and if we go into the unvaulting event and we realize that that does have the full 0 point, that would change a lot of things. But if it's cracked or something like that, has shards out of it, or if it's just the inner parts of it, like the inner core, that would make perfect sense. Now, we know that some of the members of the 7 were chromed. The Scientist, the Origin, and the Visitor were confirmed to be chromed, but we don't really know exactly what happened to them. My theory, based on what we're seeing right here, is that they could have been placed in simulations on purpose just to keep them contained. And now that the corruption is spreading inside of OG, they're finally breaking free, and that's kind of one of the mess-ups of the Dark Voyager, as he didn't realize this corruption could actually mess up what he was doing. The storyline is about to go insane. Of course, that is just my theory, but I think it does make a lot of sense. Now, we're going to go back to this loading screen because there's one person in particular that I want you guys to focus on, and that is Lynx. One of the biggest pieces of evidence for this merge between OG and Chapter 7 happens in this new loading screen, and I'm telling you right now, this might be the most important loading screen Fortnite has ever released. We're seeing OG Season 7's Lynx. He's helping the Dark Voyager hunt down the Visitor right here. Now, let me say that again, you guys. Lynx, and a remixed version of Lynx coming in OG Season 7, is helping the Dark Voyager, meaning that she's helping the last reality, meaning that she could be an agent. That is absolutely crazy. Now, my theory is that these remixed Chapter 1 skins could have been agents of the last reality the entire time, kind of working to help the Dark Voyager keep them contained and to make sure they don't escape. Obviously, it didn't work very well because the Visitor ended up escaping. And when you look at the Dark Voyager being behind the corruption in the OG mode and Lynx working with him as well, the connection becomes way too strong to ignore. And this is another reason why I firmly believe Fortnite is merging OG and BR, because the past and present characters are being rewritten to fit a single storyline. And it's kind of like the Dark Voyager is like this master of puppets, using all of these different people and all of these, different realities together to merge them so that he can control everything, keep the 7 contained, and the last reality can take over the Omniverse. We know for sure that the Dark Voyager is going to be hunting members of the 7 throughout this season, and I think it makes sense that in this loading screen right here, maybe it isn't the Visitor, but he is going to probably be hunting some members of the 7 as they come back, maybe the Foundation, and we'll talk later about how the Foundation is possibly going to come back as well. But in quests throughout this season, he's going to kind of use us as his minions, and he's going to see that the Order is of particular interest to the last reality and wants us to help him in finding her. So this dude is hunting the 7 across realities, and he's doing it with a squad, Lynx, his minions, and possibly more agents we haven't even met yet. And if he stays a villain through all of Chapter 7, we could legitimately see the 7 hunted across the entire chapter, which I think is insane. One thing that I think would be really cool, and I saw this over on Twitter earlier, is that if we keep going in this direction where the whole thing is about the Dark Voyager trying to take down the 7 and stop them from, doing whatever they're going to do, I think it would be really cool if we got a mini event or an update or something centered around rescuing the 7 members or protecting them from the Voyager. I definitely think that Fortnite needs to release new 7 skins that aren't locked behind old battle passes. This is literally the perfect moment to make new remixes. I think that would be awesome. But the 7 being rewritten and also reintroduced is one of the biggest storyline shifts that we've had, something that I honestly wasn't expecting them to do, and I'm really happy that they're doing it this way. I want to take a second before I end the video to thank you guys for all of the support, but also for you guys to appreciate how awesome it is that Fortnite made OG relevant again. OG was never meant to be a one-off nostalgia, you know, like game mode. Epic literally turned it into the backbone of Chapter 7 storyline. This is hands down one of the smartest things they've done in years, in my opinion. When the Fortnite story is good, Fortnite flourishes, but I'm telling you right now, guys, the stuff happening with the OG reality, the theories about whether it's free or not, the 0-point questions, the visitor, the red cube, it is going absolutely insane. I have entire videos coming up breaking all of that down, so make sure you guys subscribe with notifications. If you guys did enjoy today's video, please do drop a like, subscribe to the channel. I make videos like these every single day. Use code PROZEROYT, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.